Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Hi there.
You're here because, well, you want to get smart, fast on video post-production.
Right. Specifically DaVinci Resolve 19.
Yeah, it's complex stuff, and you don't want to get lost in, endless menus and tutorials.
Totally understand. Information overload is real.
We get it. You want the core knowledge, the insights that really matter.
And that's exactly what we're delivering today.
So we're doing a deep dive.
That's the plan. Into Nahul Starnick's DaVinci Resolve 19 Beginner's Guide.
Okay.
It's a pretty comprehensive resource, and our goal is basically to pull out the crucial stuff.
Like a shortcut to understanding this massive piece of software.
Exactly. Think of it as the essential briefing you need.
Because DaVinci Resolve 19, it really is a powerhouse, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's your all-in-one for editing,
Color correction.
visual effects, motion graphics,
And audio post-production, too.
all in one place, which is huge for workflow.
Imagine just streamlining everything, boosting your efficiency.
That's the big advantage. And the guide's author, Nahul Starnick.
Right. Tell us about him, his credibility.
Well, he brings a ton of real-world experience. He's not just writing theory.
Okay.
He's a filmmaker, post-pro expert, teaches at university level,
Wow.
been teaching for years. And importantly, he's a certified Blackmagic Design Master trainer.
So he really knows Resolve inside and out. That gives the guide serious weight.
Definitely. His expertise is the foundation here.
All right, so our mission is clear. Pull out the practical foundational insights from this guide.
Yep. Give you a real grasp of what Resolve 19 can do.
So you feel informed, ready to tackle your own stuff?
Exactly. Let's jump in.
Okay, so the guide kicks off with getting started, project setup.
Exactly. First steps. Download the free version of Resolve.
Which is amazing, by the way. The free version is so capable.
It really is. And then access the project media files. They're in the R19 Beginner Guide folder that comes with it.
Right. Now, one of the first hurdles people hit, and the guide covers this, is offline media.
Oh, yes. The dreaded red warnings.
You open your project, clips are missing. What's the core issue there? What's the big takeaway?
The core issue is fundamentally broken links. Resolve doesn't actually store your video files in the project.
It just points to them.
Precisely. It links to where they live on your hard drive, so if you move those files
Or rename them?
or delete them outside of Resolve, boom, the link breaks. Resolve can't find the media.
So the key insight is,
Meticulous media management from the absolute start. It's crucial.
treat your media like gold. Don't just randomly move folders around.
Exactly. Think of it like a library card catalog. You move a book, you got to update the card. Or in this case, use Resolve's tools.
Okay, so import the media, leave it there. But what if you have to move files later? Like upgrading drives or something?
Good question. If you absolutely must relocate media, the guide stresses using DaVinci Resolve's own media management tools.
Not just dragging in Finder or Explorer.
Definitely not. That's asking for trouble. The media management tools know how to update those links properly. We'll touch on them more when we discuss archiving later.
Got it. Use the built-in tools. Same for renaming. Don't rename outside Resolve.
Right, rename within Resolve itself. That updates the project's internal links safely.
Okay, media is anchored once it's in Resolve. Check. Now, project libraries. What's their role?
Project libraries are basically the databases that hold all your individual Resolve projects.
So like master folders for different clients or types of work.
Exactly. They keep things organized. And the guide also mentions Blackmagic Cloud here.
Ah, for collaboration.
Yes. You host your project libraries in the cloud. Then multiple artists, up to 10, it's a subscription thing, can work on the same project at the same time.
From different places.
Yep. Real-time collaboration for remote teams. It's pretty powerful.
Sounds like a game changer for distributed teams. Okay, library setup, project open, the interface. It can look daunting.
It can seem that way. Lots of panels.
Where does the guide suggest focusing first? To not get overwhelmed.
It points you to key areas. The media pool is central. That's where all your imported stuff lives. Media, graphics, audio, timelines.
Okay, media pool.
And within that, you use bins to organize. You can create your own, rename them.
Standard folder stuff.
Right. But the guide highlights smart bins. These are really useful.
Smart bins, how are they different?
They're dynamic. They automatically group clips based on criteria you set.
Like keywords?
Keywords, metadata, even clips you've marked as good takes manually.
Oh, that sounds handy.
Yeah, the example project even has some pre-made ones, retail and good takes. It shows you how they work right away. Saves a lot of searching later on.
I can see that being a huge time saver. especially on bigger projects.
Mhm.
Okay, media pool bins, smart bins for organizing. How do we actually, view and play clips?
That's the source viewer and the timeline viewer. Source on the left, usually for previewing individual clips.
Setting in and out points.
Exactly, select the bits you want. The timeline viewer on the right shows your actual edited sequence as you build it on the timeline below.
And playback. Basic controls.
Super important. Spacebar starts and stops. JKL keys are key.
JKL.
J is reverse play. K stops. L is forward play. Tapping them multiple times speeds it up. Standard pro editing controls.
Okay, and arrows.
Frame-by-frame navigation, left-right arrows, and home end keys.
Or function left-right on laptops.
Yeah, those jump you to the start or end of a clip or the whole timeline. Mastering these basics makes editing much faster.
Makes sense. And navigating the timeline itself. Zooming.
Crucial when things get busy. Command or control plus the plus key zooms in.
Minus key zooms out.
Right, around the playhead. And Shift-Z is super useful.
What does that do?
It toggles between fitting your whole timeline in the window and whatever zoom level you were at before. Quick overview, then back in.
Nice shortcut. And track heights. Can we make the video or audio tracks bigger?
Yep. You can adjust those vertically. There are controls. Or you can hold Shift and use the mouse scroll wheel over the track header area. Good for seeing audio waveforms clearly or managing lots of layers.
Okay, so we've got media sorted. We can find things, navigate. Now, actually building the edit, the rough cut, how does the guide approach this?
It starts simple. Drag and drop. Grab a clip from the media pool, drag it onto the timeline.
That's the basic way to lay things out.
Yeah, build the initial structure, get a feel for the rhythm.
Beyond just dragging, what other basic edit actions does it introduce for building that first sequence?
It highlights insert and append at end.
Okay, append at end sounds obvious, adds the clip to the end.
Exactly. Insert puts the clip wherever your playhead is on the timeline.
And shoves everything else down.
Right, make space for it. Those are your basic building block actions for arranging shots. The guide also mentions controlling playback speed here, which helps review footage quickly.
Got it. Now, editing is messy sometimes. Experimentation. The guide has a key tip for backups before big changes.
Yes, absolutely crucial advice. Duplicate your timeline before making major changes.
Create a copy first.
Always. It's your safety net. If
Yeah.
you go down a path and don't like it, or the client changes their mind.
You can just go back to the duplicate.
Exactly. No lost work. You find your current timeline in the media pool, there's a menu option for that. Find current timeline in media pool.
And then just right-click and duplicate.
Simple as that. Takes seconds, saves potential hours of pain.
Golden rule. Duplicate first, experiment second. Love it. But what if you forget? Or just make a mistake? Does Resolve have an auto-save or something?
It does. There's an automatic timeline backup feature.
Oh, nice.
Under the File menu, usually there's Restore Timeline Backup. It lets you revert to previously saved versions.
How often does it save?
It saves automatically in the background. You can actually set the frequency in the user preferences. Worth checking that setting.
Good to know. But it might not always be there.
Right. The guide cautions that if that Restore Timeline Backup option is grayed out, it means no automatic backups have been made for that specific timeline yet. So manual duplication is still the most reliable.
Okay, good safety net, but manual duplication is king. So rough cut is assembled. Now refining, trimming. How do we tighten up those cuts?
The guide talks about two main modes, selection mode and trim edit mode.
Selection mode sounds like the default.
Yeah, that's your basic arrow tool. You can click and drag the edge of a clip to shorten or lengthen it.
Changes its duration on the timeline.
Right, or click and drag the whole clip to move it around. Simple adjustments.
And trim edit mode. That
Yeah.
sounds more advanced.
It unlocks more sophisticated stuff. Ripple edits, for instance.
Lettuce.
Where you trim a clip and everything after it on the timeline automatically shifts to close the gap or make space. Maintains the overall sequence sync.
Ah, okay. What else in trim edit mode?
You can slip a clip. Yeah, you change the content within the clip's duration on the timeline. So the clip stays the same length, but you're choosing a different start and end point from the original source footage.
Like shifting the window you're looking through.
Exactly. And you can slide a clip too, move the entire clip earlier or later, and it adjusts the adjacent clip's durations to accommodate it.
Okay, lots of control there. How do you know what mode you're in?
The cursor changes shape, gives you visual feedback. And another cue the guide mentions is a white outline around a clip in trim edit mode.
What does the white outline mean?
It means you have handles.
Handles, like extra footage.
Exactly. unused portions of the original clip before the in point and after the out point on your timeline. You need handles for a lot of trims, like extending a clip or for transitions.
Right, you need that extra material.
And the viewer can even switch to a 4-up display in trim edit mode. Shows you the outgoing frame, incoming frame, and the adjacent frames. Super helpful for precision.
Wow, that visual feedback sounds key for getting cuts just right. Now, split edits. J-cuts, L-cuts. They make things flow smoother. How are those done?
Split edits are where the audio and video don't cut at the exact same moment.
So the audio leads the video, or vice versa.
Precisely. A J-cut is when the audio from the next clip starts before you see the video for that clip. Looks like a J on the timeline tracks.
Let you hear the next scene first.
Right. An L-cut is the opposite. The video cuts to the next shot, but the audio from the previous shot continues for a bit. Forms an L.
Keeps you visually engaged while the sound transitions.
Exactly. You create these in trim edit mode by specifically rolling just the audio edit point or just the video edit point independently of the other.
So you decouple the audio and video cuts.
Yep. Gives you that fine control to smooth out transitions, make them feel less jarring.
Makes perfect sense. Okay, still on the edit page. Basic audio adjustments. Can we tweak volume levels there?
Absolutely. The guide explains the volume overlay directly on the audio clip in the timeline.
Just a line you drag up or down?
Yep. Hover over the audio track, a line appears. Drag up for louder, down for quieter.
Simple enough.
And hold the Shift key while dragging for finer control. Makes smaller adjustments easier. Quick tweaks without going to the full audio page yet.
Very handy. Now the edit page isn't just cutting basic visual effects.
Yeah.
Like reframing a shot.
Yes, the guide introduces transform mode. Activate it, and you get controls right on the viewer.
Like handles to resize or move the image.
Exactly. You can zoom in, change the position, X and Y, even rotate the clip. Great for subtle reframing or fixing composition.
And changing clip speed. Slow-mo, fast-mos.
Also right there, in the inspector panel. Select the clip, find the speed change controls.
And type in a percentage.
Yep, or use a slider. You can make it faster, slower, and there's a direction arrow to reverse the clip easily too.
Yeah.
Basic time effects are covered.
Cool. So visual tweaks, speed changes. What about transitions? Adding a cross dissolve or something?
You can add transitions between adjacent clips. Select the edit point.
The cut between two clips.
Right. Then go to the timeline menu, choose Add Video Only Transition, or use the shortcut. Option T on Mac, Alt T on Windows is common for the default dissolve.
Okay. But you mentioned handles earlier.
Yeah.
They're needed here too.
Critically important. For a transition like a dissolve to work, both clips need enough extra frames handles beyond the cut point.
Otherwise,
Resolve will give you a warning. It can't create the transition if there's no media to dissolve between.
makes sense. And it centers the transition by default.
Usually, yeah. Uses an equal number of handle frames from both clips. You can adjust the alignment in the inspector if you need to. But yeah, handles are key.
Got it. Handle smooth transitions. What about actual filters or effects, like adding a vignette?
Yes, Resolve has a built-in effects library panel. You can find things like vignette there.
How do you apply them?
Usually just double-click the effect and it applies to the selected clip.
And then you adjust it.
In the inspector panel, yeah. Tweak the setting, size, softness, intensity for a vignette.
Can you copy effect settings between clips?
Easily. Copy the first clip, then select the second clip, and use the Paste Attributes option, choosing just the filters or specific effects. Great for consistency.
Nice. Any catches?
The guide mentions that some of the more advanced Resolve FX, especially in the free version, might have limitations, like a watermark might appear on your final render.
Ah, good to know. Something to watch out for with the free version.
Always check the limitations if you're using specific effects.
Okay, so effects are possible.
Yeah.
What about graphics, logos, titles? Can we do that in the edit page?
Yep. Adding a logo, often a PNG with transparency, is pretty simple.
Let's drag it onto a track above the video.
Exactly. Then select it, use the inspector's transform control size, position to place it where you want.
And titles, like closing credits.
The guide mentions using the text plus effect from the effects library. Drag that onto a track.
And type your text in the inspector.
Right. Adjust font, size, color, position there. And crucially, the guide highlights using safe area guide.
Safe area for TV broadcasts and stuff.
Yeah, especially the title safe option in the viewer overlays keeps your text from getting cut off on different screens. Important for professional delivery.
Good tip. And fading graphics or clips in and out.
There are little fade handles at the start and end of clips on the timeline. Drag them inwards to create fades. Simple opacity transitions.
So the edit page is really quite comprehensive for basic finishing too. Okay, let's shift gears. Audio. Equally important, often overlooked.
Absolutely. The guide really stresses this. Good audio is half the experience, maybe more.
It introduces audio mixing. What's the core idea?
Balancing levels. Dialogue, music, sound effects, making sure everything sits right, tells the story, nothing drowns anything else out.
And how do we start managing that balance? Basic controls.
Solo and mute buttons are fundamental, found in the track headers or the mixer panel.
Solo lets you hear just one track.
Yep. Isolates it. Mute silences a track. Essential tools for checking individual elements.
The guide also mentions normalizing levels. What's that about?
Normalizing automatically adjusts a clip's volume so its loudest peak hits a specific target level. Like NEC9 dBFS is mentioned as an example target.
So it brings everything to a similar peak loudness.
Kind of. It helps create a consistent starting point, but it doesn't fix everything.
Why not?
If one clip was recorded really quietly with lots of dynamic range and another was loud and compressed, normalizing the peaks won't make them sound equally loud overall. It's just a first step.
Okay, so it helps, but manual adjustments are still needed. How do we do those fine-tuned adjustments, like dipping music under dialogue?
Keyframes. The guide explains using keyframes on the volume bar directly on the clip in the timeline.
Like for video effects, control points.
Exactly. Option-click on Mac, Alt-click on Windows, adds a keyframe on the volume line. Then you can drag those keyframes up or down at specific points in time.
So you can draw in volume changes, like fading out a cop.
Precisely. The guide uses the example of removing a loud clap sound. Keyframing gives you that granular, moment-by-moment control.
Essential for polishing. Now for more advanced stuff, Fairlight FX.
Yes, Fairlight is Resolve's dedicated audio page, and Fairlight FX are the built-in audio plugins. Professional stuff.
Like what?
The guide mentions noise reduction specifically. Cleaning up background hiss, invaluable for clear audio.
So more powerful tools than just volume adjustments.
Definitely. EQ, compression, reverb, all sorts of things live there.
What about that automatic dipping, making music get quieter when someone speaks? The Ducker effect.
The Ducker. Very useful. It automatically lowers the volume of one track, like music.
Whenever another track, like dialogue, is active.
Exactly. You set the dialogue track as the trigger and the music as the target. When dialogue plays, music ducks down. Dialogue stops, music comes back up smoothly.
That sounds incredibly efficient for making dialogue clear.
It really helps create a professional, intelligible mix without tons of manual keyframing for common scenarios.
Great tool. Okay, any final audio advice from the guide before we move on?
Yes. A crucial final step. Full screen review.
Watch the whole thing through, paying attention to sound.
Yes. Without the distraction of the interface. Listen carefully. Catch any weird level jumps, missed noises, overall balance issues. Final quality check for the soundtrack.
Makes sense. Catch things you might miss while focus on editing. Okay, let's dive into Resolve's star player. Color. The color page.
Indeed, a dedicated, incredibly powerful environment for color correction and grading.
What's the basic layout the guide describes?
You've got the viewer in the middle, showing your image, the timeline for context, the nodes window, which is key.
We'll get to nodes. What else?
Color wheels are primary controls for broad adjustments, scopes for objective analysis, and the gallery for saving grades.
Okay, it might look different on smaller screens.
Yeah, the guide notes it adapts the layout, might consolidate panels on lower res displays.
Where do we start actually changing the color? Foundational controls.
The primary corrector controls are the first stop. Lift, gamma, gain, and offset.
Lift, gamma, gain. Sounds technical.
They correspond roughly to shadows, lift, midtones, gamma, and highlights, gain. Offset adjusts the whole image globally.
So controlling brightness and color balance across the whole tonal range.
Exactly. Understanding how these interact is fundamental. They're the base layer of almost any grade.
Now, just looking at the monitor isn't always reliable, right?
Yeah.
Color perception is tricky. The guide mentions scopes.
Absolutely critical. Video scopes give you objective measurements of your video signal.
Like the parade scope.
That's a key one. It shows the brightness levels for red, green, and blue channels separately, side by side.
Vertical axis is brightness. Black at the bottom, white at the top.
Right. 0 to 1023, typically for 8-bit. You can see if your channels are balanced, if exposure is right, and crucially, if you're clipping.
Clipping again. Losing detail.
Yep. Pushing shadows below black or highlights above white, 1023, the scopes show you exactly where your levels are, objectively. Much more reliable than just eyeballing it.
Okay, scopes, objective truth for your signal. Now, nodes. This is a big Resolve concept. How does the system work?
Oh. It's different from layers like in Photoshop. Think of nodes as steps in a flowchart.
Each node does one thing.
Pretty much. One node might be your primary balance, the next might add contrast, another could be a window.
And they connect together.
Yeah, in a sequence. Image data flows in, goes through node 1's adjustment, then node 2's, and so on, then out.
The guide mentions serial nodes.
That's the most common type, one after the other. The node with the orange outline is the active one adjustments affect that node.
And why is this node system powerful?
It's non-destructive and incredibly flexible. You can easily disable nodes, rearrange them, try different things without messing up other parts of your grade. It allows for complex, layered corrections.
So better to use multiple nodes rather than cramming everything into one.
Definitely best practice. The guide suggests dedicating nodes to specific tasks.
Like one for balance, one for contrast, one for a look.
Exactly. Maybe one for sharpening. It keeps things organized. If you want to adjust just the contrast later, you go to the contrast node. Doesn't mess with your balance node. Much cleaner, more controlled.
More structured, adaptable. Got it.
Yeah.
What about automatic color adjustments? Quick fixes.
Resove has some auto color or auto balance features. They can be a decent starting point sometimes.
If a shot is way off.
Yeah, technically off balance or exposure, they analyze the image and try to neutralize it.
But not usually a final grade.
Rarely perfect. They lack artistic intent. But they can save some initial setup time, get you in the ballpark, maybe help normalize a sequence of simile shots quickly. Think of them as a first pass, not a final solution.
Okay. Now, things get technical with different cameras. Log footage, HDR. The guide brings up DaVinci Resolve Color Management, or RCM. Why is this important?
RCM is huge for consistency. It manages all the color space conversions needed when you mix footage types.
Like log from a cinema camera and Rec 709 from a DSLR.
Exactly. Or when you need to deliver for different standards, like SDR for TV versus HDR for streaming.
So it makes sure colors translate correctly.
Yes. It ensures what you see on your calibrated monitor is accurately represented in the final output format, handling the math behind the scenes.
Is it automatic?
Often, automatic color management is on by default, with presets for SDR HDR. But the guide notes you can disable it for full manual control if needed for complex workflows. Getting color management right prevents nasty color shifts.
Consistency is key.
Yeah.
Okay, matching shots. Making clips shot at different times or with different cameras look the same.
A very common task. The guide suggests using the primary controls, lift, gamma, gain, as your main tools here.
And the stills gallery helps.
Immensely. You grade one shot how you like it, then save a snapshot of it still in the gallery.
Like a reference image.
Exactly. Then you can display that still next to the shot you're currently working on. Side-by-side comparison. Makes it much easier to match the color and exposure visually.
Stills gallery for visual continuity. Check. Now going beyond the primaries, custom curves. More precise control.
Significantly more precise. Curves let you adjust specific parts of the tonal range or individual color channels with much more nuance than the main wheels.
It's a graph you manipulate.
Yeah, a diagonal line represents the range, dark to light, or for a specific color channel. You add control points to this line and drag them.
To brighten just the upper midtones, for example.
Precisely. Or pull down just the blues and the shadows. You can add multiple points for really detailed shaping of tone and color, much more surgical than the primaries.
Curves for granular control. Got it. Now, what if we only want to adjust a part of the image, like just the sky or someone's face? Windows.
Power windows, yeah. They let you draw shapes, circles, squares, polygons, or custom curves to isolate areas.
And the correction only applies inside the shape.
Exactly. You draw the window, position it, resize it, soften the edges for blending. Then any color adjustment you make only affects what's inside that window.
Can you affect the area outside the window instead?
Yes, the guide mentions inverting the selection using an outside node. So you can, say, darken everything except the subject inside your window. Super flexible for targeted adjustments.
Very powerful for focusing attention. What about isolating based on color itself, not just shape? The qualifier.
The qualifier is for secondary color correction, selecting colors based on their properties.
Hue, saturation, luminance. Like select all the reds.
Pretty much. You use a picker tool to click on a color in the viewer, say a red shirt. Then you refine the selection in the qualifier palette, adjusting the range of hue, saturation, and luminance to isolate just that shirt's color.
It creates a mask, basically, a matte.
Exactly, a selection based on color properties. Then you use the normal color tools to change just that selected color, make the shirt blue or brighter or less saturated.
Can you combine qualifiers in windows?
Yes, for really complex selections. Isolate a color range within a specific shape.
So if you want to change the color of a specific red car, but not other red things in the background.
Perfect example. Qualifier gets the red, window isolates the car. But what if the car is moving?
Ah, good point. How do you make the window or selection follow it?
That's the tracker. The guide mentions the tracker palette.
It analyzes the motion.
Yeah. You tell it what to track, usually the window or the qualifier selection, and it analyzes the pixel movement frame by frame, automatically animating your shape or selection to follow the moving object.
Saves hours of manual keyframing.
Absolutely essential for pro work with moving subjects. Locks the correction onto the moving element.
Tracker for moving objects. Check. The guide also mentions the color slice tool. How's that different from the qualifier?
Color slices may be a bit broader. Think of it like dividing the color wheel into pie slices. You select a whole slice, say the orange-yellow range, and adjust all colors within that band.
Less about picking specific pixels, more about adjusting broader color families.
Kinda, yeah. Useful for overall shifts, like warming up skin tones or cooling down blues across the board. Different tool, different approach to color selection.
Okay, so many ways to isolate and adjust. Now, tracking progress. How do we make sure every clip gets graded on a big project?
Easy to lose track. The guide highlights the ungraded clips, filter in the clip thumbnails area on the color page.
Just shows clips with no grade applied?
Yep. Instantly see what's left to do. Also, flagging clips.
Assigning colors.
Yeah. Mark clips with colored flags, red for ungraded, yellow for needs review, green for done, whatever system works for you. Visual organization on the timeline.
Great tips for staying organized. Now, reusing grades. We like to grade, want to use it elsewhere. Stills again.
Stills are key here too. Save your grade as a still in the gallery.
And then apply it to other clips.
Right-click the still, apply grade to the new clip, boom, done.
Important to label them well, I imagine.
Definitely. Give stills descriptive names so you know what Moody Sunset Grade 1 actually is when you come back later.
Can you share these stills between projects?
Yes, you can export stills as .do2 files, share them, import them into other projects or other Resolve systems. They're like portable grade presets.
Very useful. What about LUTs? Lookup tables, how do they fit in?
LUTs are pre-made color transformations. Files that map input colors to output colors.
For technical stuff or creative looks?
Both. Used on set for previewing log footage, used in post for converting color spaces, or applying instant creative styles like a blockbuster teal and orange look, or a film emulation look.
Where do you find them?
Resolve has built-in LUTs in the LUTs browser. You can also import your own or third-party LUTs. The guide mentions adding custom LUT folders and preferences for easy access.
So a quick way to get a specific look or conversion.
Yeah, can be a great starting point or a finishing touch. Fast way to transform the image.
Okay, and comparing grades. The wipe stills option.
Another comparison tool in the viewer, it splits the screen, showing your current clip and a selected still from the gallery.
And you can wipe between them.
Exactly. Drag a line across to compare side by side or overlay. Really helps for precise matching to a reference still.
Sounds super helpful for consistency. The guide ends the color section with a nice reminder, right? About art versus science.
Yeah, that grading is often subjective. About creating a feeling, conveying emotion through color, not just technical accuracy. And to look at the real world for inspiration. Good perspective.
Definitely. Okay, so moving past the creative color work, finishing and grade management. What's covered here?
It kind of recaps and reinforces things, ensuring all clips are graded using the copy-paste grade function.
Using stills for saving and applying.
Exporting, importing grades as .dre files, working with LUTs for looks. It's about having a solid system to manage your grades consistently as you finalize the project.
Organization is key in the final stages. Makes sense. And then the absolute final steps, media management and project archiving, getting ready for delivery and long-term storage.
Right. Critical but often overlooked stuff. It covers reframing shots if needed for different delivery specs, like vertical video or different aspect ratios.
And rendering, exporting the final video.
Yeah, configuring settings in the render queue on the deliver page, rendering out your master file, and reviewing the exported job. Also covers exporting timelines or project files themselves for collaboration or backup.
And the archiving part. How do we safely store everything?
This is where the media management tools come back in. The guide talks about consolidating media.
Consolidating.
Copying only the parts of the clips actually used in your timeline, plus specified handles, to a new location. Makes the project smaller, self-contained for archiving.
Tidies things up.
And creating a full project archive. that bundles the project file, all the media used, consolidated or full clips, cache files, everything into one package.
For long-term backup or handing off?
Exactly. It also covers managing project libraries, again, creating them, switching, copying projects between them, and crucially, backing up the entire library database.
Don't want to lose that database.
No kidding. And it revisits Blackmagic Cloud libraries for collaborative archiving and workflow, essential practices for professional project handling.
So consolidating, archiving, managing libraries. Responsible finishing touches.
Absolutely. Ensures your work is safe and accessible down the line.
Wow. Okay, so recapping this deep dive.
Mhm.
We've really journeyed through the whole landscape of Resolve 19 based on this guide.
From the very basics of setup and interface,
Through editing, rough cuts, refining trims, split edits,
and to audio mixing, balancing levels, using keyframes, Fairlight FX.
then the huge world of color correction primaries, scopes, nodes, windows, qualifiers, LUTs.
And finally, finishing, managing grades, media management, and archiving. It's a lot.
It really is. DaVinci Resolve 19 offers this incredibly rich, integrated toolkit, all the way through post.
And this overview, based on the guide, hopefully gives a solid foundation.
But it's really just scratching the surface, isn't it?
Oh, completely. This software goes deep. This guide is the starting point.
So the next step for listeners,
Get hands-on. Download the free version if you haven't already. Open it up.
start playing with your own footage or the sample project.
Exactly. Experiment with the tools, the concepts we talked about. That's where the real learning happens.
Revisit the guide for more detail on specific areas.
Definitely. If editing clicks for you, dive deeper there. If color is your passion, spend more time on that chapter. Same for audio, VFX, workflow. Use the guide to build on this foundation.
Makes sense. Hands-on is the best teacher.
Without a doubt.
Okay, so as everyone thinks about all this capability packed into Resolve 19, here's a final thought to maybe chew on.
Yeah.
How might these insights, this understanding of such a comprehensive tool, actually reshape your own creative process or maybe your professional workflow in this, always changing world of video?
Good question to ponder.
Time to take that knowledge and start making stuff.